What you see behind me is my writer shed. It's called a bunkie, and it's a little log cabin which is sitting there all alone, and it's my own personal space. And this is where I write my books, publish on my writing platforms, create content for YouTube, whatever I feel like doing in there. It's my own space. It's like a little living room or crafting room where no one is allowed in except for me. And I'm the only one who has a key. So a few weeks ago, I made a pact to write my fiction book, my novel, for 2 consecutive days over the weekend, every weekend, for 5 weeks. And the reason for that was because I wanted to see some forward propulsion on my book, which is kind of stalled at the moment. Stalled not because the story isn't progressing, but I needed to get some editing done, rewrite some chapters, string them together a little bit differently, and come up with an ending. And so this is what I'm doing at the moment. I am filming this on a weekday, not on a weekend, because I will not be doing any filming on the weekends I have dedicated to writing fiction. I immerse myself completely into the process, and I don't look left or right. I don't go out and do chores. Here comes the beagle. I keep the door shut in my cabin so that nobody can disturb me, including the beagle. We have company. Hello. Oh, there we go. Tucker, what are you doing? Are you coming to say hi? No, I know. This is the reason why I go in my cabin and lock the door. I used AI to help me clean up some passages. I really waited a long time to implement AI into my book writing because I was so hesitant that it would control my progress or make suggestions that I didn't agree with. But I got comfortable with the idea of using AI to edit some of my passages from a grammatical point of view because I needed an objective opinion about some of these things. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. I submitted 2 paragraphs inside a story that I, I didn't like. I didn't like the way I described things. I didn't like the way I introduced the dialogue. There were just so many things not right with the paragraphs. But even if I put them aside and came back to them later, it just wasn't working out. So I decided to ask Claude, the open AI called Claude. We've all heard of him, her, it, whatever, to give me some feedback. And I didn't even realize that I used the same word like 3 times in 2 paragraphs. And that's the kind of thing that I appreciate during the editing process. So perhaps another person, an actual editor or proofreader, a beta reader, might have picked up the same mistake or the same pattern, but the people that I would trust with some, passages from my book might not be available when I need them, whereas the AI assistant was. And so that was one thing I learned during this pact I created for myself, that I can use AI at the moment I need it in order to help me clean up some grammatical things and even for some brainstorming. The other thing I did that I will probably keep going forward during this pact writing on weekends is to resist the urge to check other platforms, respond to comments, scroll, all of that. And that was a little bit difficult the first weekend because I'm so used to jumping around from topic to topic, platform to platform, that it took me a little bit of time to acclimatize to my new writing progress. By the second weekend, I had it down. I had no issues at all, just sticking with the project. Basically, because I told my brain, you're only doing this 2 days a week. There's 5 other days of the week where you can do the other stuff. This is your focus today and tomorrow. So stay focused on your book. And that worked. And in fact, I got more work done writing and editing with that mentality than I did when I tried to fit the writing in between doing other projects. So I will definitely keep this in mind going forward. When my pact finishes in 2 more weekends, I will collect all my thoughts, put them down into a document, analyze the data, and adjust my plan forward in order to complete this book. And this will include how to pursue the publishing avenues I will be looking for. I don't really know where to start. Do I need an agent, a professional editor? Like where do I even begin with the research? And I am going to use AI for that as well, to see if they can give me a little bit of direction on how to publish a book the traditional way in the Canadian market. And that will happen at the end of the 5-week pack. I'm about 80% done. And I'm looking forward to finishing it because I want to know what's going to happen in the end. The strange thing is I already have a sequel planned and I already have 3 chapters written for that, which I started back in 2020. So I already know the direction the book wants to go in. I don't know why I don't have an outline. The book just kind of tumbled out of me. I never really thought about writing an outline. And now that I'm this far ahead, I'm kind of looking back thinking maybe I should have produced an outline before I actually started writing the book. Back in those days, I didn't have this writer's shed. I was writing at the dining table surrounded by kids and their clutter and noise and mess. I wrote sometimes into my phone at the rink while the kids were at practice, or at the baseball diamond during those long practices. And that's something I need to consider going forward, whether the next book will need an outline, or at least a general outline, not necessarily one engraved in stone, to pursue, so that I don't get stuck in wondering what's going to happen with the ending. So thank you so much for tuning in.